Can I just say, the announcement of Breach aside, this is probably the worst birthday for Scaled and Icy. Like, the pilots full-on neglected Psy and dropped a full album announcement instead. Psy very much feels like the unloved child here. Put some respect on Psy's name. Hi, my name is Dema, and if you've been hiding in the attic for a good week because too many things were going on with the pilots that didn't really make sense, or world events just became too much for you, don't worry. I'm here with a recap on everything that has happened this week. Everything we know about the next album so far, as well as an analysis on the material we have available for Breach. The build-up to the announcement for this album has been very slow burn. Lots of bits and pieces that didn't make sense individually until we had everything. Technically, the reveal of Breach starts all the way back at the EU and UK leg with the FPE exhibit. Each of the letters had a symbol for Morse code at the end, which then had to be combined per conversation group. So for example, the conversation between Magnus and Balder had to be combined to get one letter for our code. Altogether, this spelled Breach. Aside from all the concert lore of Clancy not taking the jacket on the final date in London, which is arguably seen on the album cover, the next omen for things to come was the anniversary of Blurryface. Not only did the band update their profile to the hiatus eye, a famous countdown from the end of the Blurryface era that, when closed, signified the start of the band's indefinite break, but they also began to cause the new Blurryface X version of their website to fade in opacity each day, mimicking the desaturation countdown that led to the announcement of Psy. Blurryface had also taken over the main band account, tweeting memories from behind the scenes of the Blurryface era, and hiding a code amidst these tweets in the form of randomly capitalized letters that were later on edited. The day before the eye was due to close, Blurryface tweeted from his own account mocking Clancy, stating "Broke your confidence, hello Clancy," with 2 extra B's randomly placed, leading the clique to believe that we had collected 2 B's too many so far for the code in Blurryface's tweets. This code was The Contract, the first single to be announced from Breach, solved not even 24 hours before the announcement. And on the day the eye was predicted to close and the website to fully fade to black, we instead received the announcement for Breach, disrupting this process. You could argue that the lack of the eye fully closing or website fully fading represents the state Clancy is in during the events of Paladin. Blurryface mocks him, breaking his confidence as he starts to smear him, causing Clancy to close his eyes, and then announces "Hello Clancy" just like he does during Paladin Strait. But Clancy does not submit. His eyes do not fully close. In summary, the events of the band account and profile represent the state of Clancy in Paladin Strait, essentially catching us up to speed after the flashback that was the Clancy tour, and Blurryface's final tweet represents the last conversation Nico had with Clancy in Paladin Strait where we left them. There's really not much to say about the design of this era thus far in my opinion. The colour scheme is black and red, mimicking that of the Blurryface era, but it maintains the logo seen in the Clancy era. Even Tyler and Josh's outfits to some degree also reflect Blurryface, from Tyler's notorious red ankle socks to Josh wearing the spooky gym eyeshadow. And even then, if you squint, the album cover actually looks very similar to some of the promotional photo shoots done by Rock Sound for the Blurryface era. We also have the weird lighting around the two of them. The clique is pretty divided as to what it could be, myself included, but it looks either like Blurryface's face from within the album booklet, or it looks like a skull, specifically the ones seen on Tyler's t-shirts during the Clancy tour, which in itself was a reference to Heavy Dirty Soul. The consistent repetition of the design features linking back to the Blurryface era, in my opinion, doubles down on a concept seen briefly in the Clancy album cover, but more in the lyrics and music videos for that era. We will inevitably cycle back to Blurryface, or more specifically, Heavy Dirty Soul. Aside from these observations, I think it's also cool how this album cover does feel like a progression from Clancy. Both Tyler and Josh are centre stage, representing their rebellion, but this time Josh isn't blurred, as if the character of Torchbearer is no longer taking a backseat. What's also interesting is whilst Josh's design of Torchbearer hasn't really evolved from the Clancy album cover, Clancy's design has. He's no longer wearing the rebel jacket, instead wearing this closely cropped wetsuit fleece style clothing that generally makes it look like the black paint on his hands and neck are consuming his entire body. There's also the fact that the stole has replaced the red tape. The tape has always been a symbol of identification and protection in the story. The yellow tape identified the banditos and protected them from the gaze of the bishops. The red tape identified Dema's citizens part of the bandito movement and protected them from the scrutiny of the bishops, in a way acting as camouflage for those inside Dema or attempting to infiltrate it by wearing and reclaiming bishop colours. The use of the Clancy stole this time, in my opinion, likely not only aims to identify Tyler as Clancy, as well as the fact that he is following himself, saving himself this time rather than working with a community as seen in the FPE letters, and also by the fact that he leans away from Josh and the rebel jacket, but also that to some degree he believes his role as Clancy, as this exception with the power to seize, likely protects him from the full influence of the bishops. I know this paints the situation in this era as quite pessimistic. My name is Dema, it is my job to be the #1 doomer of the narrative, but this is just my first impressions and analysis of the era thus far. This is all prone to change the more we get. Just like how I stated the Clancy front cover foreshadowed Dema burning, and we literally did not get one bit of fire on those towers in that era. The announcement of Breach also has some noteworthy information to mention and further analyse. Firstly, whilst we know the album will be released in September, a specific date has yet to be penned down. However, according to the information seen at checkout for the pre-orders, it states the pre-orders will release on September 5th. Of course, this is all subject to change, but it does look like our album release date is September 5th. Aside from this, the announcement for Breach also has a little tidbit of lore that links to what I said earlier. Hello Clancy, hello Blurryface. Let's finish this. To me, considering Nico, Blurryface, is the one who says hello Clancy not only in Paladin Straight, but also on the Blurryface Twitter account, this feels like a conversation between Nico and Clancy during and after the events of Paladin Straight. What's interesting is, if this is a conversation between the two, Clancy finally refers to Nico as Blurryface. As per the lyrics of Morph, those who are close to Nico refer to him by this name. Blurryface is less formal, disrespectful. It very much seems like Clancy solidifying that Nico has no more power over him, nor will he bend to Nico's will. And now onto a little bit more speculative analysis. Clancy as an album name reflected Clancy's internal struggles with consistently backsliding. This album title, Breach, could reference a lot of things. In my mind at least, considering we're coming from an album like Clancy, I think it could be about breaching these faulty coping mechanisms and the habits of backsliding, finally having come across ways to healthily cope by the end of that album. But again, this is conjecture, and this is based off of a brief glimpse for what this era has to offer. It could represent breaching the cycle of bad habits, it could represent breaching the cycle of mental health and internal struggles, or it could represent breaching your sense of self and identity. Only time will tell. Although if they did cover the theme of authenticity in this album, all I will say is the links to Blurryface only grow stronger. Clancy is doomed by the narrative. As for the song name The Contract, all I've got to ask is, who in the pilot's team thought it was some kind of sick joke to make me have to remember contract law during my summer holidays away from my law degree? Anyway, considering contract is elevated to a noun through the use of the, this is likely referring to a legal contract, an agreement for trade, service, or something else. On a non-law level, this song could potentially be about the music industry. It wouldn't be the first time the Pilots have released a law-related song that also talks about the band's gripes with it. On a law level, however, the only thing I can think of is how, during Psy, Clancy stated on Dema.org that they came to an agreement during their imprisonment to use their works for the betterment of the city. The fact that the contract is on an album called Breach could imply this song will be breaching that contract with the bishops, not allowing them to use his work to manipulate the citizens. Or it very well could be about breaching the term to better the city. Considering the last FPE letter from Clancy states he doesn't want to improve or liberate the city, he merely wishes to return power to it, and wishes to be its absolute example of such. And that's it for this very brief analysis of all the content we've gotten so far for Breach. This is where I upload the video and the pilots do an I am Clancy and drop another teaser like right after I upload it. Because we're back in that era again of me doing stuff and then them either doing it really late at night or proving me wrong like 5 seconds after I've uploaded. Apologies if my voice sounds a little bit raspy. I am recording this currently at like 9 AM in the morning, so I'm a little bit tired. I haven't had anything to drink yet. I just needed to get this video recorded and out the way because I'm kind of busy today. So, Breach. I genuinely did not believe for a second that we would be getting an announcement for an album this week. I thought that if anything regarding musical content was going to happen, it would be announced in June. So, I'm gonna be honest, chat, I'm really struggling to currently feel like this is all real. Maybe it's because of such the nonchalant way the pilots have announced this album, but it's really, I wake up, I go about my day, and then all of a sudden I remember Breach is an album that's gonna exist, and it brings me into shambles. Like, genuinely, this feels like the most unserious album drop I've ever seen the pilots do. With Clancy, you know, we had a good few weeks run-up. We speculated that an album was coming out, but we still had a good long way before it actually did, you know, with the red tape, the Dema org letters, Alt Guy leaking stuff, wherever Ned's cozy fireplace was, we had quite a bit of run-up. This, they were just like, desaturation, hiatus here you go, here's the album. Anyway, that's it. I will probably be back soon with either a tour vlog, less vlog, more recap, because I didn't get to vlog much. I'll explain for reasons why in that video, and it could also potentially be the FPE recap, because with Breach coming out June 12th, I've just realized all of a sudden I need to catch everyone up to speed with everything happening in the FPE letters. Like, I thought I had time, and the pilots were just like, nah, you're spending your summer holidays talking about lore, I guess. So, you know, we'll have to see via roulette which of these two will come out first. Who knows? Maybe 21 Pilots drop more Breach teasers and I'll have to sit there analyzing that first instead.